The Pentagon has attempted, to its own detriment, to establish that there's nothing to see here regarding UFOs. In the AARO UFO historical report that dropped yesterday, this attempt will be an absolute failure, as I'm already hearing rumblings of the pushback that's a-coming. The historical report published by AARO consists of 64 pages pertaining to the U.S. government's involvement with the UFO topic going all the way back to 1945. A volume 2 of this report will also be coming out at some point later. I should say, the pushback against the report has already commenced, even though this is just the beginning. Shortly after this report dropped, Lue Elizondo conveyed the following on Twitter. Today, the Pentagon and its current UAP investigative program, AARO, issued a public report that is intentionally dishonest, inaccurate, and dangerously misleading. I hold the Pentagon leadership and former AARO leadership accountable for this obvious attempt to diminish and embarrass whistleblowers, to undermine the truth, and ignore the evidence. Their goal is clearly to minimize congressional and public scrutiny and to cover up the truth. To be clear, I do not hold most of the fine people who work within AARO to be accountable, as they are not all responsible for their leaders' decisions. Many of us who have worked the UAP topic for the government are aware of the ample classified evidence that has been provided to AARO and contradicts this report. Senior members of Congress have also had access to this evidence. This report only makes it more abundantly clear to Congress that they must take more legislative action to demand transparency on the UAP topic on behalf of the American people. Myself and others who are aware of the truth are going to keep working to help Congress in their efforts to achieve disclosure. Lue Elizondo. It's interesting that Lue Elizondo stated that senior members of Congress have also had access to this evidence, referring to evidence that contradicts the report that AARO released yesterday. If that is true, this is a brazen attempt by the DoD and intelligence community to put the genie back in the bottle, all the while knowing that Congress knows that this report is filled with blatant inaccuracies. In other words, it appears that the DoD and intelligence agencies have gone full on gangsta mode in trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. Here's a clip from the Seoul Foundation UFO Symposium that took place at Stanford University that supports what Elizondo stated regarding senior congressional members having seen official evidence that contradicts the AARO UFO historical report. Former Colonel Carl Nell explains.
And the other interesting takeaway from this is there's two people that are sponsoring this bill that are on the Gang of Eight. So the Gang of Eight was really a concept that got created out of the Church Commission when there was intel oversight concerns back in the 60s and the 70s, where there were activities going on that Congress was not aware of and that were essentially illegal. And so there was a structure put in place such that certain key members of Congress would be legally entitled to hear about all information that pertained to the equities of Title 10 and Title 50. And so that created this concept of the Gang of Eight, which is the majority leader and the minority leader in the Senate, the speaker and the minority leader in the House, and then the ranking and chairs of each of the intel committees. So that's 8 folks. So these folks are the people in Congress that are aware of all the information. So that should sink in. There are 2 people that are sponsoring this in Congress that say we need this legislation because things aren't working right. And these are the people that are read into everything.
So that last part of what Carl Nell stated is worth reiterating. He stated, so these folks, referring to the Gang of Eight, are the people in Congress that are aware of all the information. So that should sink in. There are two people that are sponsoring this in Congress that say we need this legislation because things aren't working right. And these are the people that are read into everything. Read into is just another way of saying briefed. He's referring to the Gang of Eight. What are the two specific members of the Gang of Eight that sponsored the UAP Disclosure Act? That is the Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, and another member of the Gang of Eight, Senator Mike Rounds. So from what former Colonel Carl Nell stated, it sounds like he's saying that they know about the situation on an official level. They've seen much better evidence than what the public has seen, which has given them the impetus to create this legislation. Bear in mind, the UAP Disclosure Act had the phrase or term non-human intelligence written in it like 24 times. It spoke about recovered non-human intelligence craft and recovered non-human intelligence bodies. That was literally written in to the legislation that got gutted by some members in the GOP. And it's been said that the Department of Defense pressured them into that. It's also been said that aerospace companies pressured them into that. Anyways, this aligns with what Lue Elizondo said, that senior members of Congress have seen evidence contradicting the historical UAP report given by AARO of the Pentagon. In the following clip is the most powerful person within the United States Congress, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Listen to what he has to say. What would elicit this kind of language in a congressional soliloquy? Perhaps he's seen and heard things giving him the impetus to say such things.
The United States government has gathered a great deal of information about UAPs over many decades, but has refused to share it with the American people. That is wrong, and additionally, it breeds mistrust. We've also been notified by multiple credible sources that information on UAPs has also been withheld from Congress, which, if true, is a violation of the laws requiring full notification to the legislative branch.
So that should sink in.
Now, the following clip is from an interview with host Chris Cuomo and interviewee Chris Mellon. This published on News Nation the day before the July 26th UFO hearing with David Grusch, Commander David Fravor, and former Lieutenant Ryan Graves. What's so fascinating about this clip I'm about to show you is that Chris Mellon literally speaks about this possibility that we've just been covering, that members within the Gang of Eight have already been legally told about, perhaps, as an example, the UFO crash retrieval program, but they can't make that clear because of legal reasons. This ties in to what Elizondo is saying, that senior members of Congress have already seen evidence contradicting the AARO UFO report. If this is accurate, this makes what the Department of Defense, AARO, and the intelligence community are currently doing mind-bogglingly brazen to put that UFO genie back in the bottle.
But it is an unprecedented challenge, and we have a very complex legal oversight architecture in terms of security stuff. It's conceivable, for example, that Congress has already been lawfully informed, but Representative Burchett and others don't know because legally, the administration can notify a very small number of people and say it's checked the box. So there's also a problem with Department of Energy black programs. They get no oversight from Congress, in essence. Right. So there's a lot of work to be done.
In following the theme that we've been threading, that members of the Gang of Eight have been exposed to evidence that contradicts the UAP historical report by the Pentagon AARO, here is a quote by UFO whistleblower David Grusch. It was stated in November of 2023 when he was a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience, and I quote, and so you have the 67-page amendments, right? It's called the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023, known as the Schumer Amendment. Co-sponsors were Young, Gillibrand, Rubio, Rounds, and Young. And kudos for those senators for stepping up to the plate because they know this is real. I know what meetings they've had with certain other individuals that are, even more credible than myself. On March 8th, the day the AARO UFO historical report dropped, host Chris Cuomo had journalists Ross Coulthart and former Lieutenant Ryan Graves on their show. Bear in mind, Ryan Graves was one of the witnesses from the July 26th UFO hearing. Here, Chris Cuomo asks Ryan Graves if he's going to back off as a result of this historical UFO report attempting to put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Ryan, are you going to back off?
Well, no, absolutely not. And I don't think the public is either. A report like this is not going to satisfy the public's curiosity on this topic. We're not stupid. Right. The public's not stupid. We understand when we're being misdirected, when we're not having enough information brought forward. It's clear that transparency is not part of the equation for them.
So Ryan Graves is not backing down. Much of the public will not back down, in his opinion, my opinion too. And it's clear to me the U.S. Congress will not back down. It's partly because based upon what Elizondo said, based upon what former Colonel Nell said, and based upon what UFO whistleblower David Grusch said, there are members in Congress that have been exposed to evidence contradicting the AARO Pentagon UFO historical report. There's no way they're going to back down. They know this is absolutely crazy. But in the following clip that's was on the Elizabeth Vargas show, I believe. However, it looks like journalist Connell McShane was filling in for her. Here, journalist Ross Coulthart's the guest, and he delves into another group of people that for sure will not back down as a result of this historical UFO report.
I'm talking to multiple people tonight, people inside the legacy retrieval program, reverse engineering program that is being secretly operated by people within the US government and private aerospace who hoot with laughter at this feeble attempt by the Pentagon to try and stop the issue being discussed any further. We know for a fact that the Inspector General of the intelligence community, that is the oversight body for the intelligence community, separately from the Pentagon, has made a determination that David Grusch's complaints are credible and urgent. And that's why they were referred to the Congress for investigation. Right. And I was only just recently in Washington talking to senior staffers, senior congressional representatives, and senior senators. And by golly, they are not letting go of this just because the Pentagon makes a pronouncement that it's not true.
So Ross Coulthart points out something that I have also pointed out, and that's that the oversight body of the intelligence community, independent of the Department of Defense, the Intelligence Community Inspector General Thomas Monheim, when he examined the claims and testimony of UFO whistleblower David Grusch, his analysis of it was that the information shared by David Grusch was credible and urgent. So this is another component that contradicts the impression that the Department of Defense, through AARO, with the UFO historical report, is trying to sow among the populace. Since Chris Mellon is such a major player in all this, I'm going to read what he posted on Twitter as a response to the AARO Pentagon historical UAP record. This new report is not going to satisfy anyone. To begin with, it is a case of the DoD and the IC investigating themselves without even the independence that Inspector General enjoy. Obviously, there is a huge potential conflict of interest. Imagine a small office at the DoD trying to investigate the Iran-Contra affair. Congress did a great job with that inquiry, something that would have likely been a whitewash if the executive had tried to investigate itself. Further, many witnesses did not trust AARO and would not meet with them. For example, one former senior USG official years ago not only told me the rumors are real, he also provided details including the name of the USAF gatekeeper. But he refused to speak to AARO about this because he claimed he did not trust the process. Some of the witnesses who refused to meet with AARO did meet behind closed doors with members of Congress, however. That is why some in Congress take the issue so seriously. What I also find concerning is the false conflation in some news coverage of the assertion there is no recovered alien technology with the notion that we don't have evidence of craft doing things beyond our present understanding of science and technology. As we know, hundreds of credible military reports remain unexplained and are continuing to pour in. Even Dr. Kirkpatrick concedes there is no conventional explanation for the well-documented Nimitz case, and earlier this week, Ryan Graves demonstrated to me with pencil and paper why none of the proposed debunking explanations for the gimbal video makes sense. There's also the recent case in Florida involving a USAF fighter that pursued a UAP and suffered interference with its sensors. The list goes on, and some, the public needs to understand it is imperative to continue aggressively investigating UAP for both national security and scientific purposes, regardless of the accuracy of this report. So let's go deeper into the core of this contradiction that is getting worse and worse and worse, and in my opinion, is going to lead to some degree of what we refer to as catastrophic disclosure. In the following clip, this was published the day before the July 26 UFO hearing occurred with Dave Grusch and the other two witnesses. We've already went over that. And I already showed a clip from this interview with Chris Cuomo and Chris Mellon. But here Chris Mellon goes deep into the people that he's spoken to, both in the Department of Defense and former intelligence officials that have stated to him that there are recovered craft of non-human origin.
So what do you believe that we're dealing with? That they know about equipment and technology from other countries that they have kept secret? Or do you believe that there is any chance that the American government has knowledge of things they believe are not from Earth and they've kept it from the American people?
I've been told that that is the case by several Defense Department officials. I've been
that
told
it's not from this Earth, or they don't know from where it's from on this Earth?
I've been told that we have recovered technology that did not originate on this Earth by officials in the Department of Defense and by former intelligence officials. I've referred some of those officials to the office that's undertaking this investigation. Dave is another one of those individuals. He's decided to go public with his information. So there are credible people, and we have a direct conflict here between what Dr. Kirkpatrick is saying and what
Right.
these other folks are saying, and Congress is in the middle, and they got to sort it out.
Wake up. Wake up. One of the big takeaways from what Chris Mellon stated, and bear in mind, he's a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence. This guy is completely plugged in. He's level-headed. I think he graduated from an Ivy League school. He has an illustrious family background and the whole nine. This is not a fantasy-prone person. But one of the biggest things that he said, in my opinion, is he said, I've been told that is the case, that is that the U.S. government has recovered non-human intelligence craft. He said, I've been told this by several Defense Department officials. Not one, but several. And I think he said in the Defense Department, so current employees, and then he went on to say he's also been told this by intelligence officials. I think when he said in the Defense Department, and then also former intelligence officials, he's making a demarcation between I've been told by people that are currently employed in the Department of Defense that this is true, and in addition to that, I've been told by former intelligence officials. So what does this paint? This paints that what the Department of Defense is trying to get away with is closing down this whole discussion. Nothing to see here. The problem is there are too many people who know too much and are not willing to remain quiet. And that very fact, I think, is going to start emerging very intensely in the not too distant future.
And I can reveal here tonight that I've found out some of the members of a special secret advisory committee that Dr. Kirkpatrick used to advise him in the preparation of that report. I have their names, I have their roles, I know who they are. They are the gatekeepers, believe it or not, to this legacy program. Mm-hmm. They were quite literally pulling the strings on this AARO report. And people are so angry, so bitterly angry with this feeble attempt at a cover-up that they are now leaking more assiduously to people like me, and more importantly, whistleblowers are becoming more compelled to come forward and give evidence about what they know.
So the frustration is growing. It's growing amongst officials in the government, former and current. It's growing amongst whistleblowers. It's people that are currently working in UFO programs or program within aerospace companies, and those that have done so in the past. And Ross Coulthart said that he got the names of some of the members of a special secret advisory committee that advised the former head of AARO, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, in the preparation of this UFO historical report. He has their names. He has the name of their roles. He knows who they are. They are the gatekeepers, according to Ross Coulthart. They were quite literally pulling the strings on this AARO report. And then he goes on to say that, people or whistleblowers are beginning to leak more assiduously. And by the way, I had to look that word up. Assiduously means with great care and perseverance. They're leaking more assiduously to people like journalist Ross Coulthart. So that brings me to a tweet that James Fox published on March 6th. Today I begin editing the end of the program. The program is the name of the documentary that he's going to release fairly soon. The program is another term for the specific program responsible for going all around the world to recover crashed or landed non-human intelligence craft. Now let's continue with his tweet. Today I begin editing the end of the program. when I came upon this lovely scene with Representative Luna, Representative Motzkowitz, and Representative Burchett of friendship despite their political affiliation. We need more of this, please. UAP transparency, kindness. To which MU responds, will we be getting firsthand whistleblowers in the program aside from Lue Elizondo, James Lukatsky, Chris Mellon, Eric Davis, David Grusch, Carl Nell, and Colm Kelleher? To which James Fox says yes. So the more the Department of Defense pushes this fake, false narrative that there's nothing to see here, it appears the more whistleblowers, insiders are going to want to cooperate with people like James Fox and push back against what's I consider a constitutional crisis, where the executive branch is lying through their teeth about UFOs, even though the legislative branch is requesting transparency and honesty. Let's end this video with a story that journalist Matt Laszlo broke on his website, askapaul.com, title, David Grusch in talks with UAP caucus member about becoming congressional intel aide. Quote, it would be a mechanism for us to have somebody on the inside that's steering the ship, the Congressional UAP caucus member exclusively tells Ask a Poll. I'm not going to go further into Matt's story. I'll put a link to the story below, but what this demonstrates to me is we have not seen the last of Mr. Grusch. I remember sharing a quote from him from a recent magazine article where the quote was something like, I always finish my mission, David Grusch said. So David Grusch, I think his mission, frankly, I'm sure he has several, but one of his central missions or a central theme of his mission is to just eradicate the cover-up and allow and facilitate UAP transparency for the world. So I'll keep my eye on this and report back to you what happens as it unfolds. To end this video, I think I will play the disclosure flute to help usher in a post-disclosure world where I assess we're all headed. Please do not forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You can become a Patreon. You can become a YouTube sub. You could give me a one-time donation. All of those potentialities are in the description box below. I think it's called a YouTube member. I'm just really tired. It's really late at night. I wanted to get this up early today for you. So I apologize for a little bit of fatigue, but if you just slap a like on this bad boy, I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.